Thanks for watching. My name is Swann, and today I want to show you how to light a live shot or a stand-up using the KVIA issued MMJ packs. The camera we're using is the JVC 650, and we're using two Light Panels Micro Pro lights. One light is mounted on the camera, and the second is on a light stand. You can use any lights you like. If you are issued a Lowell kit, that will certainly work. The type of light you're using is not important. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is technique. In this first shot, I'm demonstrating the technique I most frequently see from our field teams. Here's a nice two-point lighting scheme with our reporter Marco. I've used a standard studio lighting technique with one key light and one field light. I demonstrated this technique in the studio in another video for the series, and I encourage you to go take a look at it. While this technique works great in the studio, it's the wrong technique to use in the field at night. Why? Marco looks great, but we can't see where Marco is. He appears to be standing in front of a building of some sort. When your news director or assignments editor sends you to a live scene, the point of being there is so the viewer can draw some benefit from seeing the scene. If we can't see the scene, there's no point in being live from there. You might as well have stayed in the newsroom. Now look at this shot. We have illuminated the background and we can see where Marco is. We did this not by adding more artificial light, but by actually reducing the amount of light that we're using on Marco and illuminating the natural light at the scene. This is very simple to do. Open your camera iris all the way up, gang up to 24 dB. Make sure your neutral density is off and that your shutter is turned off. Then move your artificial lights away from the subject and heavily diffuse them or dim the light. Now this is going to look dark to your eye, but the camera is now using natural light and your light stands are just being used to fill the shadow on your talent's face. Here's the before shot. All you need to fill the background are some artificial light sources in the back that the camera can use to gang up. Think of it as low-tech night vision. If you look at the background, there is some light emanating off the building. That's what the camera is going to gang up. Now look at this shot lit correctly. Some of you are going to note that there's some grain in the picture. That's okay, this is news. We're not making a movie or doing high-end production. You're at a news scene and the story is the scene, so we need to see the scene. Here's a second example. Let's say the story here is that a car went off a ravine. Using standard studio lighting techniques, I can see Marco, but not much about the scene. When I pan down the ravine, I can't see anything. From a news perspective, I'm not showing the viewer anything, and I might as well have stayed back in the newsroom. Look behind Marco at those little lights in the background. Let's use those to illuminate our picture. The process is the same. Gang up to 24 dB, open your iris fully, make sure your shutter and neutral density filters are off, and diffuse your lights so that they're only giving you a tiny amount of illumination. Look at the difference. As a viewer, I can see the scene, and as we pan down the ravine, while still dark, I can get a sense of it. Here's an extreme example for illustrative purposes. Your cameras are equipped with hyper gain. Here I have 32 dB of gain. This is overkill for this scenario. As you can see, the lights in the background are kind of blown out. But I wanted to show you how much light you can force into this camera before you start rolling down your shutter. This is not a setting you'd normally use if the picture is now very noisy, but you should be aware that you can do this if you're ever shooting in very dark conditions and have no options. We need to be able to see what you're trying to shoot, or else you're wasting your time. Okay, let's go back to the proper exposure for this scene. One last scenario. Let's say that a body was found in a dumpster. Using standard studio lighting, we can see the dumpster, but not much detail. Okay, now let's take what we've learned and let's gang it up. Well, this is better, but there's not much of a difference. So why were the first two shots so dramatically different, but this one not so much? Remember, you must have some light in the background for the camera to use. In the other shots, we had those distant street lights and lights from the building. Here, there's not much for the camera to work with. I'm going to take the fill light we're using for Marco's accent light and turn it toward the scene. Now we've added some light for the camera to gang up, and now we can clearly see the scene. One of the biggest misconceptions about lighting the field at night is that you can use your light kit to light your background. Well, if you're going to do that, then you better have only about 5 feet of background you're dealing with. Unless you have 10,000 watts of lighting gear and a generator to power it, you're wasting your time trying to light a real scene. The idea of using your light kit to light the scene is an outdated technique that we employed back when we had tube cameras that didn't function well in low light. We had no other option, and I can tell you from experience the results were not good. Today you're being outfitted with cameras which are remarkable in low light, but you have to use them properly. Try this out on your next live shot, and if you have any questions, leave a comment or just come by and see me. Thanks and good luck.